You're in the trenches with Dave Lapham, presented by First Star Logistics. The Cincinnati Bengals fall 27-3 to the Chicago Bears on Saturday afternoon in Chicago. But Lap, this was more of a case. You really can't take much from it. This was Bengals backups versus the Chicago Bears starters.
Yeah, it was. They only had a couple of guys that are fighting for a starting position in the secondary, going at it against the Chicago Bears. DJ Turner and Dax Hill, and Dax Hill played two series, 6 snaps, because they had 3 3-and-outs, even though they were backups against the Bears starters. Start the game in a real good fashion. The Bears run 9 plays and accumulate a total of 16 yards, 3 3-and-outs, and Dax Hill was out after 2 series, and DJ Turner was in for all 3 of the 3-and-outs. Then he was out of the football game, so they didn't get a whole lot of reps. But what they did was, was positive, obviously. But the football game itself, after that, the 3 3-and-outs, the Chicago Bears just took control. I mean, they went on 5 straight drives where they scored 27 points. 5 straight drives, 29 plays, 232 yards, 27 points. So it was, a tale of two, I guess, sequences or whatever you want to call it, instead of tale of 2 cities, man. They started out well, 3 for 3 drives, and then the next 5, it was not very good at all. And then offensively, I mean, they couldn't get out of their own way, Dave. I mean, all the way across the board, offense, defense, special teams. You get 11 penalties for 123 yards. Kicking game, how many times do they have a good return nullified by a hold or whatever the case was? And they lose not only the 10 yards of the holding penalty, but where the holding penalty occurred, it ended up being like a 25-yard penalty. I'd given up a quarter of a football field because of a stupid penalty. And they had special teams penalties. They had penalties offensively that disrupted, just about every single drive. 10 drives on the night. They only had 3 of them, 3 drives without a penalty or a turnover, 3 out of 10. And, one of them was the field goal, and that was a short field goal drive at the end of the half, and then the 2-minute drill, which was a good thing. And then on 2 3-and-outs. Hard to get penalties on 3-and-outs, I guess, So, but anytime they started moving the football, and they did move the football some, it's like frustrating, those 7 plays and then get a really big penalty that makes a 3rd and 5, a 3rd and 15. Kind of thing, and that's absolutely killing them. Then with the penalties and all that went on there, the Bears' average drive start was their 33-yard line. The Bengals was the 21-yard line. That's a 12-yard differential, 10 possessions in the game. The old hidden yards, 120 over a football field. It's like, but the penalties are a concern, Dave, because in against Tampa Bay, 8 penalties for 61 yards, 2 preseason games, 19 penalties, 184 yards, and the Bengals under Zach Taylor have been one of the least penalized teams, in the NFL. Now, again, like we're talking about, you get backups playing and all that sort of thing, but it's disconcerting. It's like, man, and these guys, you want to get evaluated. Well, the best way to be evaluated is don't make mistakes and set yourself behind the 8 ball and put yourself in tough down and distance situations. And, if you don't generate first downs, you're not going to be able to run the ball many times, and you're not going to be able to get good tape on how you can run block and all this kind of thing. So, it's like, it's self-destruction in a lot of ways for some of these guys. And, it was one of those nights, to say the least. And what was Murphy's Law, man, what could go wrong did go wrong in every phase of it.
Lap, one of the bright spots, Charlie Jones been out with the injury, did not take part in the actual preseason game. Rookie Jermaine Burton flashed against Tampa Bay as a wide receiver, and he kind of showed that, hey, I can do more. I can be a part of the special teams for Darren Simmons.
Yeah, and he'd never returned a punt or a kick in his career. Now, he'd done it in practice, but never in his career in a game. So, and this is preseason now. It's not a regular season game, obviously, but he showed something now. He's got a bunch of traits that you want from a skill set standpoint that you'd like to check, and he's got them. And he made really good decisions, I thought, and made them quickly. He got north and south very quickly. And yeah, he's a gifted kid. He's a gifted athlete. So I think Darren Simmons is going to work with that a little bit more. There's no doubt about it. And the thing that the thing that he's got to continue to do is keep that nose in the playbook and make sure that he's where he's supposed to be when he's supposed to be there, because number 9's not going to put up with it, man. If you're not where you're supposed to be when you're supposed to be there, and he throws the football to where you're supposed to be and you're not there, that's it. You know, it's like, I can't trust you, man. So that's a big deal, and he's got to be real serious about it and real diligent about it and stay after that playbook, because he has got an unbelievable skill set. I mean, his arms are long for his height, and he's really good with contested catch. I mean, he's got great speed. He runs good routes. I mean, he's just got to make sure that he's got the mental part of it all squared away.
Offensively, Logan Woodside, basically got the majority of snaps. Rocky Lombardi came in late, 2 interceptions for Woodside, but he's just trying to find a spot as maybe the number 3 quarterback or just some role in because we know it's the quarterback position's Joe Burrow's. Nothing's going to change that. And Jake Browning proved a year ago that he belonged in the NFL. So what, do you take away from what Woodside's performance was? Do you see the Bengals keeping the 3rd quarterback, or are they looking to put a guy on the practice squad?
Yeah, I'm not sure they're going to have a 3rd quarterback on the roster, because there are so many, okay, do I keep 10 or 11 defensive backs? Do I go, if are 5 safeties worthy of making this football team, and 5 corners? And actually, boy, there's 6 corners. Now do I go 11? Where do I steal that spot from? Okay, do I go 3 running backs and steal that spot? Okay, now do I go, how many receivers do I go? Do I want to go an extra receiver? Well, I'll steal that spot at the quarterback position. I can see, those kind of things as the days wear on here, and you're going to have to start deciding on your final cut downs. That's going to be interesting questions. But Woodside is he's a guy that is not necessarily somebody that, okay, you keep and develop. He's one of those guys that he's a veteran quarterback. He's been around the block, and he understands your offense. And I felt badly for him that the game didn't go as he planned, because I'm telling you, Dave, up there in Chicago, I'd see this kid in the meeting room all by himself, putting extra time into his playbook and, looking at tape and stuff. And then I'd see him in the cafeteria after all the guys had left. He's, again, writing notes in his playbook. I mean, he was preparing his tail off, and that's the thing about him. He's always prepared. And it's unfortunate that the performance didn't pan out the way that he had hoped. But he's, again, been around the block enough where he's going to have to bounce back in a short week and go after it against the Indianapolis Colts. He had a very strong performance against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He looked really good. And I think, what you're going to get with Woodside is a veteran quarterback that understands the game. He's been around the league. He understands the NFL a little bit. And that's a guy that, can, put out the fire for you until your quarterback comes back from injury. And I think not only the Cincinnati Bengals, but the league realizes that what you got right now is what you're going to get with Logan Woodside from a developmental standpoint.
You're in the trenches with Dave Lapham, presented by First Star Logistics. First Star Logistics is currently hiring, looking for freight agents. They are an asset-based company that provides 24/7 support, unsaturated agent network with the highest commission percentage in the industry, and over 30,000 pre-screened carriers. Visit firststarlogistics.com/careers for all the information about openings at one of the fastest growing companies in Cincinnati, and a great place to work that Dave Lapham and I both can attest to. Let's move to defense, because like we said, as far as starters, we saw Dax Hill, DJ Turner, that battle going on, but this is a battle of backups. Who's going to make that 53-man roster? And one guy who impressed a week ago, Muma Janmeta, 6 tackles against the Bears. He's trying to show that, hey, I belong in the NFL.
He does. John Meta is trying to prove that exactly. And what he's going to have to do is show from a special team standpoint too that he belongs in the National Football League. And I think his strength is tight quarters, quick read, come downhill, blow it up. He's not a guy. The reason that obviously wasn't drafted, where he had maybe hoped, or whatever the case may be, after his collegiate career, is that in space, it's more of a challenge for him. We saw, and of course, he's trying to run down Odunze, who can fly. I mean, that's a mismatch. But he's going to have to show that he can handle it in space in the National Football League, because it is a cut above in terms of athletes and speed and all that sort of thing. But as far as an intelligent player, I mean, he was accepted to all the Ivies. I mean, he's an unbelievable student. Both his parents have multiple degrees, masters and doctorates and everything else. And he comes from a family that is extremely intelligent. And he's got that. And he's football intelligent as well. Sometimes book smart guys are, sometimes they're not. This guy is. And he sees it quickly. He's one of those guys that, man, he makes his first move without any wasted steps so quickly. It's like, boy, is he freelancing or is he seeing it? And in my mind, I think he's starting to prove that he's really seeing it, because, he did well in the joint practices as well. And he's one of those guys that just has a real innate ability to diagnose, and taking that first step with no wasted steps gives them a head start on people in a lot of cases. And sometimes it's going to be a case of, when you get exposed out there in space, how you going to handle it? That's probably the biggest question left on him. But I like him a lot. I mean, I think he's a great guy. I mean, he's a tremendous guy to have a conversation with. He's great with his teammates. He's everything you want, really, and he's following it up. This week it was crazy up there in Chicago, Dave. I mean, the theme of the week was rain. I mean, it rained on the joint practice big time. I mean, like the Cleveland game. I mean, it poured. During the course of the game, it rained. There were, spotty showers in the game that soaked it. And they had just resodded the field, and it was retaining moisture. And there was a little problem there, thinking, oh, man, these strips of sod down there, these seams, what's it gonna be like? And then after we flew home, land, and we're getting off the plane, loading the buses up to go to Paycor, and it starts pouring again, and guys get drenched one last time. So the theme of the whole thing was rain for sure. And then of course the injuries, man. That's the other disappointing thing. You lose players for the season with knee injuries. You don't want to have that type of situation, but that's what unfolded, and then you lose a receiver with a fractured finger. And he could play, he put a splint on and play, but he didn't play in the preseason game. Obviously, there was no reason to force the issue there. So Pryor could have probably played in a regular season game, but man, to lose the guys you lost with those knee injuries, Chris Evans, it was tough to lose him, and then at the tackle position, lose Big Deontay Smith, and both of those guys worked so hard, in the off season, man, to try to expand their roles, and to see them just crushed like that was the toughest part of the trip. There's no question about it. I thought, though, Dave, a couple of guys, we're in the trenches, and we love being in the trenches, right? Dave Berk and Dave Lapham, we're trench guys, and I thought two guys that really showed up as far as in the trenches concerned. Matt Lee, watch out, he's ascending. He took every snap at the center position. He started the football game and took every snap at the center position. Jackson Kirkland, because of the shortage of tackles, he kicked out from guard to tackle, and he played tackle at Washington. And he hung in there fine. He did a good job at that left tackle position. So he's showing position versatility. Cody Ford had to go to the right tackle position. Matt Lee started at center. Trey Hill moved over to right guard, and he played more reps at center than anywhere in his career, obviously. And so he's trying to show position versatility. He's over there at right guard. And Nate Gillum played the left guard position. He played every single snap. They only had 8 offensive linemen available for the football game. So, you get five starters. You only got 3 left. So that means 2 of the starters have to stay in the football game and take every single snap. And the center and left guard did exactly that. And I'm telling you, when it was against the ones, Matt Lee held his own, man. And maybe in some snaps even more than that. He's ascending. Watch out. He took advantage of an opportunity. And that's what happens, Dave. We know, and sometimes, you're in a game and the team gets destroyed for whatever reason. But individual matchups sometimes, it's like, hey, you know what? I didn't play that badly. And then sometimes you win a game by a big amount, and then you look at the table like, oh, geez, I wasn't very good, you know. Well, as a team, that's why it's the greatest team sport ever. You can play well, and the team can get crushed. You can play terrible, and the team can have a big victory. And Matt Lee took advantage of his individual opportunity and capitalized on it. And I thought offensively in the trenches, he was the guy. And then defensively, Chris Jenkins, man, he nice tight spin move, sack, showed himself well in the snaps. I thought he stepped up and took advantage. And those were the two guys I wanted to talk to after the game. And I go over to Chris Jenkins, and he's already, PR people already have him on the phone. He's talking to all the national radio shows and all that are doing radio shows recapping the game. They want to talk to stars of the game. So thinking, okay, well, at least I had Chris Jenkins, right? And then poor old Matt Lee, that's how it goes for the offensive lineman. You know, Dave, he's over to his locker all by himself. And I'm like, hey, man, I want to talk to you. He goes, really? So we chatted it up, and he's another kid that is, you know, how sometimes, Dave, you've been around the game your whole life. You know how sometimes guys are football aware? This dude has football awareness, you know, and he plays bigger than he is. We talked about this little hop step, little like jump back step that he takes, and he sets himself and anchors himself, and he's just got a great feel for the game. And I thought that he took advantage, and thought Chris Jenkins took advantage. So a couple of young bucks, draft picks this year, one in the second round and one in the seventh round. They both said, here I am.
Yeah, you never know how good a draft is until a few years down the road, but early on results are showing very positive when you look at Mims, Burton, Jenkins, and then you also see Matt Lee, who came way late in the draft. And when you sit there right after the draft happened, you go, this is a guy who, you know, started his career at one college, finished at another, but his game keeps, as you said, is ascending. He's not going backwards. He's going forward, and you want to see, you know, a guy like that, and especially when you can come in and be behind a guy like Ted Karras and still work on that craft. And that's what people have to understand. Offensive line play is a craft. It's a skill set. As we, you know, we always talk about receivers and quarterbacks and running backs being skilled players. Offensive linemen are skilled players. Do not forget that, especially the way I always looked at it is the center position. You have to be so many things at the center position. One, you have to be very bright because you have to know everything. And you got to usually know, like, you know, all the calls along the line, no matter if it's the tackle, the guards, whoever it's for. You need to know what everyone's got to be doing and making sure you're communicating. And then you have to have, you know, the ear of your quarterback. He has to be willing to listen to you as well. When you come back to the huddle, say, hey, here's what we're seeing. Did you see this? And it's just, when you see a young player grabbing that early and getting those reps, that's how you end up making a career in the National Football League.
Yeah, I mean, and Paul Brown and Tiger Johnson, their whole scenario was the center called all the protections. The center identified, you know, potential blitz scenarios. He identified fronts. He'd you know, come up to the line of scrimmage, and I played the position some with the Bengals as well. And you did. You had to come up. You were the first one that identified. I mean, you basically identified for the quarterback to at least verbalized it. And if the quarterback had a problem with it, you know, he could basically communicate it right away. But the center would call the front and then make line calls accordingly. And you know, all the communication and responsibility that goes on there. But the first and foremost is recognizing properly. You know, it's one thing to make calls. They got to be the right calls, you know, and yeah, he's got all of that. And it's going to be interesting to see how the battles wind down in the final. There's only 2 training camp practices left. A practice on Monday, and then a joint practice on Tuesday. Basically a walkthrough on Wednesday, and then they got the Colts preseason game on Thursday, and that's pretty much it. I mean, that's it for training camp. You know, a guy that has been playing really well in the draft class we're talking about, Josh Newton. They had him like rated as a 3rd round pick, and they got him in the 5th, and he's had a tremendous camp. He struggled a little bit, you know. He gave up a ball. It was in pretty good coverage, but it was a heck of a throw by Caleb Williams. I mean, rolling to his left and squared his pads up enough where he could drop it in there about 40 yards down the football field. And Newton was in decent position there. He just didn't work out for him. And he had a couple of other issues during the course of the game. Now, the key on that is that any young player, you want to see, honestly, you know, it might sound morbid or whatever from a career standpoint, but you want to see a young guy struggle in training camp, because then you get to see how he responds. Does he fold his tent and say, "Oh man, this stuff's too big for me," or does he say, "You know what? Hey, I'm going to learn from this. I'm going to compartmentalize it. I'm not going to forget about it. I'm going to learn, but I'm not going to let it just, you know, take me over either. I'm not, you know, I'm going to move on." And you have to have that selective amnesia. And now guys like Newton and others that maybe struggled during the course of the game, they hadn't been struggling during training camp. And it happens at every level. I mean, I don't care if you've played long enough, whatever level you played, you're going to have tough days at the office. It's inevitable. How do you handle it? That's the key. How do you handle it? And how do you bounce back? And what's your process like in bouncing back? And now the coaches can observe all that as well. And that's part of the evaluation for sure.
Yeah, I encourage people, if you have not seen our interview with Von Bell, Lap had Von Bell, we recorded on his day off. He came on In the Trenches. He said, if you're going to play in the NFL, you got to have amnesia at times, because there's going to be things that happen, and it happens, and you better forget about it and move forward, because if you don't, you're not going to be in the league for very long.
That's right.
All right, one last battle I want to talk about, and it really wasn't a battle Saturday between the Bears and Bengals. It's at that punter position. Ryan Rako had 6 punts, averaged 46.2 yard average, one inside the 20. Brad Robbins is out with the hip flexor injury. How do you see that playing out over the course of the next week?
Yeah, I mean, I thought, you know, Ryan had a chance to really separate himself, I thought, you know, and he did okay. I mean, the first punt, he ended up having a 57-yard punt. Well, it rolled almost 20 yards. I mean, he didn't hit it very well. It had no hang time. He didn't hit it very well, but it wasn't fielded, and he got a heck of a roll out of it. And, you know, he's got a majestic hang time potential, and that didn't show up. His numbers, I think, look better than how he actually punted the football. I'm sure he's probably like, "Hey, man, I know I can hit it better than I did." But with that said, the numbers that do show up when he's not hitting the ball as you know, effortlessly as he can, it speaks to the talent the guy has, you know. And I think the other thing is that he had a little bit of a different style of holding, you know, squeezing the ball a little bit differently at the collegiate level, and Darren is working on that, and he's gotten away from that methodology, and he's holding like Darren wants holders to hold, and the newly agreed to contractual arrangement between Evan McPherson and the Cincinnati Bengals. He'll sign the contract back here in Cincinnati, but he has agreed to terms, and it's a good deal for him and a good deal for the team. And on that 54-yard field goal attempt, you know, snap, hold, kick, well, the operation was smooth as silk. So I think that's a factor, is a plus for him as well. He has all kinds of ability, and man, I swear to gosh, when that kid, if he comes, you know, as the Bengals hit the road, I think the offensive line should come out first. A bunch of guys 6'8", you know, 350 and above or whatever, and then right after that, have him come out, and people are like, "Geez, what position is this guy? Tight end or linebacker?" No, that's our punter. What? Geez, that's a huge football team. Because I mean, this guy's 230 pounds on a 6'4", 6'5" frame. I mean, he's put together, man. So he certainly looks the part, that's for sure. And he does have a talented leg. And you know, I think he's looking to have. And no, I'm not saying that his performance, man, that was atrocious. It was good. I mean, it was strong. But he's capable of better, and that's the good side of it. And like I said, even if he's not having you know, a performance that is up to his standard, he's still dictated and determined field position positive for the Bengals for sure.
You're in the Trenches with Dave Lapham, presented by First Star Logistics. Do us a favor. hit that subscribe button if you're not done so already. Also, like the videos on our YouTube channel to help us grow the algorithms. The more people find out about Dave Lapham in the trenches. And also comment. We love comments. Always taking a look at the comment section. As Lap said, this is it. This coming week, Tuesday, is the Colts come to town for a joint practice. Monday is the final practice the fans can go and watch as far as preseason camp. Tuesday's joint practice, you got to be like a season ticket holder or on the waiting list to get a ticket for that event. Then Thursday night, the Colts, 8 o'clock kickoff at Paycor Stadium, and Lap to close out. I mean, it's crunch week. We're 9 days away from cut day, Tuesday, August 27th, 4 p.m., 53-man roster deadline for the NFL. And then, you start seeing what the roster is going to look like, and then you start seeing all the jockeying for who's going to get a spot on the practice squad. It doesn't make the roster, and that's probably what we're going to be focusing on more come after Thursday night.
Yeah, and it's crazy, Dave, because it's such a trying time for guys trying to make their way into the National Football League. You cut down to 53. I mean, there's so many players out there. Rosters are at 90 right now. Everybody has to cut down to 53. Multiply that differential by 32. And, everybody's like, okay, geez, are the Bengals, are they going to, man, is there another tackle out there? Is there another, offensive tackle? Is there another defensive end? Is there another line? Is there another whatever the case may be if they've been nicked up from an injury standpoint? In a matter of time, I mean, there's going to be all kinds of names that everybody around the league can draw from, so that it's going to be you talk about emotional ups and downs. You got waived, and then all of a sudden, boy, another team reaches out and contacts you. And then if you're on that 53-man roster, you're not safe, because if they go and get somebody to beef up a position that might be one man short because of injury or whatever, when they add that number, somebody goes. So now it's like, man, I made the 53-man roster, but I can't hold. I got to keep holding my breath. I can't breathe yet, because, man, there's still some jockeying that's going to go on here. Teams that have injuries that need to address personnel differently leading up to the first game of the season. So, man, you talk about a nail biting time for football players. It's coming up. It's coming up upon us. And next couple of weeks, guys are going to have a little bit tougher time closing their eyes and going to sleep. Not everybody. Of course, a lot of guys know and feel pretty comfortable about the fact that they have a roster spot in a starting position, in a lot of cases thrown up. But you can never take anything for granted in the National Football League, that's for sure.
Yeah, over 1,000 players will be available to NFL teams come Tuesday, August 27th at 4 p.m. And then, like I said, the practice squad, 17 slots for practice squad, 16 plus one if you take an international player. And
right.
For a job that if you're, you got less than 2 years of accrued seasons, you're looking at a $12,500 per week paycheck. And if you've got more than 2 accrued seasons, you're getting a little over $21,000 a lap. That's close to the money that you were making in a whole season back in the day.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah. 26,000 for a season, my rookie year. And I was like, wow, man, how'd you get that much? World Football League, World Football League was in existence for the first season ever. And we were able to leverage that for a big 26 G's. It's crazy how you talk about explosion, man. The National Football League has just absolutely exploded. There's no question about it, and it's competitive to say the least. And man, you never know if you start resting on your laurels and taking things for granted. That's when some of these guys that are ascending all of a sudden ascend right by you, and it's like, man, where did that come from? Well, you gotta go out and compete to the best of your ability on a daily basis, and you can't say, put it in cruise control here for a couple of days this week. Not a good idea, man. Can't do it.
He is Dave Lapham. You have been in the trenches, presented by First Star Logistics. Again, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, and comment. We'd love to see comments. Lap, it's going to be an interesting week, a short week, a lot of quick turnaround as the Colts will come to Paycor Stadium for a Thursday night matchup in the final preseason game. Probably not a lot of drama. I doubt we see any of the starters again for the second consecutive preseason game. But as we've talked about all through this one, it's going to be the time for guys who are looking for those roster spots to step forward. So it's going to be an interesting week, to say the least. And Lap, we look forward to seeing you in the trenches later this week.
You got it, Dave. Yeah, and that's what's taking place here in Cincinnati and 31 other teams around the NFL. It is, man. It's a competitive environment right now. It's dog eat dog, man, no doubt.
For Dave Lapham, this is Dave Berk. You have been in the trenches with Dave Lapham, presented by First Star Logistics. Until next time, hoo-day.
Hoo-day, Dave.
Dave Lapham here, and every day I am grateful for my experience to have played professional football. As a player, I realized self-motivation, leadership, and appreciating your teammates are key. At First Star Logistics, you can use those same attributes to create the life you want for you and your family. Build your future by working hard like I did. You'll see results both on and off the field. Call First Star Logistics today and be part of our winning team.
Opportunity knocking.